Elena's smile hid a world of pain, but Neymar Jr. saw through it, and what he did next will leave you speechless. Before we dive in, drop a 1 in the comments if you're ready for a story that'll hit you right in the heart, and hit that subscribe button to join the journey. Neymar Jr., the soccer superstar whose dazzling footwork and infectious grin lit up stadiums worldwide, lived in a sprawling Miami mansion, all glass and marble, with palm trees framing the ocean view. The house gleamed under the Florida sun, its pool sparkling like a sapphire, and inside, every surface screamed wealth. Italian leather sofas, crystal chandeliers, a home theater bigger than most apartments. But lately, Neymar's attention wasn't on the luxury. It was on Elena, his housekeeper. She was a quiet woman, always polite, her dark hair neatly tied back, her uniform crisp despite the Miami heat. She moved through the mansion like a ghost, dusting corners, polishing counters, her hands quick but her eyes heavy. For weeks, Neymar had noticed a change. Elena, once chatty with a warm laugh, had grown silent. Her smiles, once bright as the sunrise, now flickered like a dying bulb. Something was wrong, and it gnawed at him. He first noticed it during breakfast. Elena set down his coffee, black and steaming, her fingers trembling slightly. She wore a long-sleeved shirt, odd for the humid air, the fabric clinging to her thin frame. "Everything okay, Elena?" he asked, his voice soft. She nodded, her lips curling into a tight smile. "Yes, Mr. Neymar, just fine." But her eyes didn't meet his. They darted to the floor, shadowed, carrying a weight she wouldn't share. Neymar leaned back in his chair, the coffee untouched, his gut twisting. He wasn't just her boss, he prided himself on knowing his staff, treating them like family. Elena had been with him for 5 years, ever since he'd settled in Miami after his latest contract. She'd always been reliable, kind, even bringing homemade tamales for the staff on holidays. But now, she was fading, like a song stuck on repeat, losing its melody. The signs piled up. One day, he saw her slip half her lunch, a sandwich from the staff kitchen, into a plastic bag, tucking it into her purse like a secret. Another time, when his teammate, Lucas, was over, joking about a yacht trip to the Bahamas, Elena's face froze. She'd been wiping down the dining table, her cloth moving in slow circles. Lucas's laugh filled the room, but Elena's eyes dropped, her mouth twitching into a sad, fleeting smile. Neymar caught it, his chest tightening. "She's not herself," he told Lucas later, sprawled on the couch, a soccer game muted on the flat screen. Lucas, his childhood friend from Sao Paulo, now a sports agent, shrugged, tossing a chip into his mouth. "People got their own stuff, man. Maybe she's just tired." But Neymar shook his head. "It's more than that. I can feel it." He couldn't let it go. Elena's silence was loud, screaming something he couldn't yet hear. He started watching her closer. She ate less, her cheeks hollowing out. She wore those long sleeves every day, even when the AC couldn't keep up with the Miami swelter. Once, when she thought no one was looking, he saw her pause by a window, staring out at the ocean, her fingers tracing the glass, her face crumpling for a split second before she straightened up, back to work. It hit him hard. Neymar, who'd grown up in a modest Brazilian neighborhood, knew struggle. He'd seen it in his mother's late-night shifts, in his father's calloused hands. But he'd left that world behind, or so he thought. Elena was pulling him back, her quiet pain a mirror to a life he'd almost forgotten. One evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky pink and gold, Neymar made a choice. He couldn't just ask her again. She'd dodge, like always. He needed to know the truth, to see what she hid behind that polite smile. It felt wrong, invasive, but his heart wouldn't let him ignore it. He called Lucas, his voice low, urgent. "I'm gonna follow her. After her shift, I need to know what's going on." Lucas laughed, thinking it was a joke, but stopped when he heard Neymar's tone. "You serious, bro? That's some detective stuff." Neymar didn't laugh back. "I'm serious. Something's eating her up. I can't just sit here." When Elena's shift ended, Neymar was ready. She left the mansion at dusk, her old purse slung over her shoulder, a faded red scarf tied around her neck. Neymar waited, parked a block away in a rented black SUV, the kind that blended into Miami's flashy streets. He pulled a baseball cap low over his eyes, slid on sunglasses despite the fading light, and told his driver, Marco, to keep it discreet. "Just follow her, man. Don't get too close." Marco, a grizzled ex-cabbie who'd driven Neymar through Miami's chaos for years, nodded, no questions asked. Elena walked to a bus stop, her steps quick, her head down. She clutched a worn grocery bag, the plastic fraying at the edges. Neymar's heart raced, a mix of guilt and curiosity. What was he doing? This wasn't his business. But something stronger pushed him forward, a need to understand. The bus wound through Miami, past neon-lit clubs and glossy condos, then into grittier streets where the lights dimmed and the sidewalks cracked. Elena got off in a neighborhood Neymar didn't know, far from the mansions and beaches. The air smelled of dust and fried food, the streets lined with sagging houses and rusted cars. Neymar told Marco to park a block away, then slipped out, keeping his cap low. He felt out of place, his designer sneakers crunching on gravel, his pulse loud in his ears. Elena walked fast, her bag bouncing against her hip. She turned down a dirt path barely wide enough for a car, leading to a cluster of shacks patched together with wood, tarp, and hope. Neymar followed, staying in the shadows of crooked streetlights. The path opened to a clearing, a makeshift village of sorts, where kids kicked a deflated soccer ball and old men sat on crates, smoking. Elena stopped at a shack, smaller than the rest, its walls a patchwork of plywood and tin. The roof sagged, held up by sheer will. Neymar crouched behind a rusted barrel, his breath shallow. Then he saw it. Elena's face changed. The weight she carried all day lifted, just for a moment. She smiled, a real smile, as two kids burst from the shack shouting, "Mama!" A girl, maybe 8, with braids, and a boy, younger, his shirt too big, threw themselves into her arms. Elena knelt, hugging them tight, her face buried in their hair. Tears glistened in her eyes, but she laughed, kissing their cheeks. An older man, frail and leaning on a cane, appeared at the door. His face was lined, his eyes cloudy, but he smiled at Elena, his voice raspy. "You're late, mija." Elena stood, still holding her kid's hands. "Long day, Papa, but I'm here now." Neymar's throat tightened. This was her family. 2 kids, Sofia and Mateo, and her father, Carlos, living in a place that looked like it could collapse with one strong wind. The shack had no windows, just gaps where boards didn't meet. A faint light flickered inside, probably a lantern. Elena pulled food from her bag, a loaf of bread, a few apples, the sandwich from lunch. She split it carefully, giving most to the kids. Neymar's eyes stung. He'd spent thousands on dinners he barely touched, while Elena rationed crumbs for her family. He stayed hidden, watching as Elena sat on a crate outside, Sofia on her lap, Mateo kicking dirt nearby. Carlos coughed, a deep rattling sound, and Elena's face tightened. She handed him a cup of water, her movements gentle but urgent. "Did you take your medicine, Papa?" she asked. Carlos waved her off, his voice weak. "Don't fuss, Elena. We'll manage." But Neymar saw the truth in her eyes. Fear, exhaustion, a love so fierce, it held them all together. Sofia tugged at Elena's sleeve, her voice small. "Can we get a new ball, Mama? The old one's flat." Elena's smile faltered, but she recovered fast. "Soon, baby. I promise." Neymar's heart sank. He knew that tone, the one parents used when soon meant never. The sky darkened, stars poking through the haze. Neymar's legs cramped, but he couldn't move, couldn't look away. Elena carried Mateo inside, Sofia trailing behind. Carlos stayed outside, staring at the horizon, his face etched with a quiet pride. Neymar saw it all. The love, the struggle, the strength. Elena, who cleaned his mansion with such care, who smiled through every "good morning," was fighting a battle he'd never imagined. Her family lived on the edge, in a world of dirt floors and empty stomachs, yet they had each other, their laughter cutting through the silence of the night. Neymar's mind raced. He thought of his own childhood, playing soccer barefoot on cracked pavement, his mother's voice calling him home. He'd made it out, become a star, but Elena was still there, in that struggle, invisible to the world. Guilt hit him like a wave. His mansion, his cars, his parties, none of it felt real anymore, not compared to this. He slipped back to the SUV, his cap still low, his thoughts louder than the engine. Marco raised an eyebrow but said nothing as they drove back to the glittering side of Miami. Neymar stared out the window, the city lights blurring. He couldn't unsee Elena's life, couldn't shake the image of her kid's hopeful eyes, her father's frail frame, her own quiet strength. Back at the mansion, Neymar couldn't sleep. He paced the living room, the marble floor cold under his feet. Lucas called, his voice crackling through the phone. "So, you play spy yet? What did you find?" Neymar's voice was low, heavy. "Man, it's bad. She's got kids, a sick dad, living in a shack. It's not right." Lucas went quiet, then sighed. "You can't fix everybody's problems, Ney." But Neymar wasn't listening. He didn't want to fix everyone. He wanted to help Elena, to give her what she deserved. Not pity, but respect. He thought of her smile, the one she forced for him every day, and felt a fire ignite inside him. He wasn't just a soccer star anymore. He was someone who'd seen the truth, and he couldn't look away. The next morning, Elena was back, her uniform spotless, her hair pulled tight. She moved through the house, silent as ever, wiping down counters, folding towels. Neymar watched her from the kitchen, his coffee cold in his hand. "Good morning, Elena," he said, his voice softer than usual. She looked up, startled, then smiled that same guarded smile. "Good morning, Mr. Neymar." He wanted to say more, to ask about her kids, her father, but the words caught in his throat. Not yet. He needed a plan, something real, something that would change her life without breaking her pride. As she left the room, her footsteps light on the polished floor, Neymar made a silent promise. He'd seen her world, and he was going to make it better. Not for fame, not for applause, but because Elena's strength deserved it. Because her heart, bigger than his mansion, deserved to be seen. Whoa, what would you do in Neymar's shoes? Comment shock if this hits you hard, and hit that like button to see how he steps up. Neymar Jr. woke to the hum of Miami's morning. The ocean breeze slipping through his mansion's open windows, carrying the scent of salt and promise. But his mind wasn't on the view, the glittering pool, or the day's training session. It was on Elena, her shack, her kids' hopeful eyes, her father's frail cough. The image of her family, huddled in that crumbling home, looped in his head like a highlight reel. He couldn't pause. He'd seen her truth, and it changed him. Sprawled on his leather couch, coffee cold on the glass table, Neymar felt a weight he couldn't shake. His wealth, his fame, his life, it all felt hollow next to Elena's quiet fight. He couldn't just go back to parties and photo shoots. He had to act, not for pity, but for justice, for respect. He called Lucas first, his voice low, urgent. "Man, I can't stop thinking about Elena. I gotta do something." Lucas, munching cereal on the other end, laughed lightly. "What? You gonna play hero now, Ney?" But Neymar's silence shut him up. "I'm serious. She's killing herself for her family, living in a shack. I can't just watch." Lucas sighed, his tone softening. "All right, bro. What's the plan?" Neymar leaned forward, his fingers drumming the couch. "A house. A real one. Something solid, with everything they need." Lucas whistled. "That's big. You sure?" Neymar's jaw tightened. "Never been surer." He hung up and dialed Andre, his manager, a sharp guy who'd handled Neymar's deals for years. Andre picked up, his voice all business. "What's up, Ney? Got a new endorsement?" Neymar cut him off. "No. Something else. I need you to find a contractor, someone fast, discreet. I'm building a house." Andre paused, confused. "A house? For you?" Neymar's voice dropped, firm. "Not for me. For someone who deserves it. I'll explain later. Just make it happen." Andre, sensing the urgency, agreed. "Give me a day. I'll find someone." Neymar ended the call, his pulse racing. This was real now, not just a thought. He was moving, building something that mattered. At the mansion, Elena was already working, her movements precise, her face guarded. She polished the kitchen island, her long sleeves rolled up just enough to show a bruise on her wrist. Faint, but there. Neymar's stomach twisted. Was it from work? Something worse? He wanted to ask, but her eyes stayed down, focused on the granite. "Morning, Elena," he said, softer than usual. She glanced up, her smile quick, forced. "Morning, Mr. Neymar. Coffee?" He nodded, watching her pour, her hand steady despite the tremble he'd seen before. She was a fortress, hiding her cracks. He sipped the coffee, bitter on his tongue, and felt a pang of guilt. How many mornings had she smiled like that, carrying a world he'd never seen? Andre called back that afternoon, his voice brisk. "Found someone. Maria Alvarez, best contractor in Miami. She's fast, keeps her mouth shut. Where's this house going?" Neymar gave him the details. The dirt path, the shack's location, the neighborhood forgotten by the city. "It's rough out there, Andre. I want it done quick. Days, not weeks." Andre hesitated. "That's tight, Ney. Gonna cost extra." Neymar didn't blink. "I don't care. Pay what it takes." He hung up, his mind already racing ahead. A house wasn't enough. Elena needed more. Security, hope, a way to breathe without fear. Maria met Neymar the next day at a quiet cafe, away from prying eyes. She was a no-nonsense woman, mid-40s, with calloused hands and a sharp gaze. "Andre says you want a house built fast," she said, sipping black coffee. "What's the deal?" Neymar leaned in, his cap low. "It's for a woman who works for me. She's got kids, a sick dad. They're living in a shack. I want to give them a real home. Bedrooms, a kitchen, plumbing. Simple but solid." Maria raised an eyebrow. "Why the rush?" Neymar's voice cracked just a bit. "Because she's breaking her back for them and nobody sees it. I do." Maria studied him, then nodded. "All right. I'll need a crew, permits, materials. Can you cover it?" Neymar slid a card across the table. "Whatever you need. Just don't let her know." Maria's team moved fast. By the next day, they'd scouted the site, a dusty lot where Elena's shack teetered. Neymar drove out at dawn, alone, his SUV bouncing on the rutted path. The neighborhood was quiet, the shacks dark, smoke curling from a distant fire. He parked far off, his heart heavy. The shack looked worse in daylight, boards warped, tin roof rusted, a plastic sheet flapping in the breeze. He imagined Elena inside, cooking on a makeshift stove, her kids curled on a thin mattress, his chest tightened. How did she do it? How did she smile at him every day, knowing this was her life? Back at the mansion, Neymar watched Elena closer. She vacuumed the living room, her movements mechanical, her face blank. But he saw the strain. Her shoulders hunched, her steps slower than usual. Once she paused, gripping the vacuum, her eyes squeezing shut like she was fighting tears. Neymar in the hallway froze, his breath caught. He wanted to speak, to say he knew, but he couldn't. Not yet. Instead, he texted Maria. "How's it going?" Her reply was quick. "Foundation's in. Walls up tomorrow. You weren't kidding about fast." Neymar exhaled, a flicker of hope igniting. It was happening. Lucas dropped by that evening, sprawled on Neymar's couch, a beer in hand. "So, you're really doing this? Building a house for your housekeeper?" Neymar nodded, staring at the TV, a soccer game he wasn't watching. "Yeah, you should have seen it, man. Her kids, they're so happy, even with nothing." Lucas tilted his head. "You're getting soft, Ney." Neymar shot him a look. "Maybe. Or maybe I'm just seeing what's real." Lucas raised his beer, a half-smile forming. "Respect, bro. But what's next? You can't just drop a house and walk away." Neymar's jaw clenched. He hadn't thought that far, but Lucas was right. A house was a start, not the end. The next day, Neymar's guilt grew. He threw a party for his teammates, the mansion pulsing with music, laughter, and clinking glasses. But he couldn't enjoy it. He kept seeing Elena's shack, her kid's deflated soccer ball, her father's cough. The excess around him, catered food, champagne, designer clothes, felt obscene. He slipped away to his balcony, the ocean dark below, and called Maria. "How's it looking?" Her voice was tired but steady. "Roof's on. Plumbing's next. You coming to check?" Neymar hesitated. He wanted to, but he couldn't risk Elena seeing him. "Not yet. Keep me posted." He hung up, the party's noise fading behind him. He felt split, half in his world, half in hers. Elena's struggles deepened. One morning she called in sick, her voice hoarse over the phone. "I'm sorry, Mr. Neymar. My dad. He's not good. I'll be back tomorrow." Neymar's heart sank. "Take your time, Elena, whatever you need." But he knew time wasn't enough. He texted Maria. "Hurry." Her reply. "Working round the clock. 2 days max." Neymar paced his office, photos of his soccer triumphs lining the walls. Those trophies felt empty now, their shine mocking him. He thought of Elena's kids, Sofia's braids, Matteo's too big shirt. They deserved more than a shack. They deserved a chance. He drove to the site that night, unable to stay away. The neighborhood was alive, music from a radio, kids chasing each other, a dog barking. Maria's crew worked under floodlights, hammers echoing. The house was taking shape. Brick walls, a tiled roof, windows glinting. Neymar stayed in his car, cap low, his breath fogging the window. It was small, modest, but solid. A real home. He imagined Elena's face when she saw it, her kids running through the rooms, Carlos resting without coughing. His eyes stung, a mix of pride and pain. This was bigger than him, bigger than soccer. Back at the mansion, Elena returned, paler, thinner. She moved slower, her smile weaker. Neymar caught her in the kitchen, refilling his coffee. "How's your dad?" he asked, his voice gentle. She froze, her hand on the pot. "He's hanging on. Thank you for asking." Her eyes flickered with gratitude, but the shadows remained. Neymar nodded, his throat tight. He wanted to tell her about the house, the plan, but he held back. It wasn't time. Instead, he watched her work, her hands scrubbing dishes, her face set in that quiet strength. She was a warrior, and he was in awe. Maria called the next evening, her voice triumphant. "It's done, Neymar. Walls, roof, plumbing, electric. Just needs furniture." Neymar's heart leaped. "You're a legend, Maria. I'll handle the rest." He called Andre, his words spilling out. "I need furniture. Beds, a couch, a fridge, everything. And toys for the kids. Make it fast." Andre, ever efficient, didn't question it. "On it. Delivery tomorrow." Neymar hung up, his mind racing. The house was ready, but how to get Elena there? He couldn't just hand her keys. She'd refuse, her pride too strong. He needed a plan, something subtle, respectful. He sat with Lucas that night, the mansion quiet, the city lights sparkling outside. "I'm going to tell her it's a charity event," Neymar said, his voice firm. "Get her to the house without suspecting." Lucas grinned, leaning back. "Sneaky. I like it. You pulling this off, man. It's wild." Neymar didn't smile. "It's not about me. It's about her. She's the one carrying everything." Lucas nodded, serious now. "You're right. She's got heart. More than most." Neymar stared at his hands, the calluses from years of soccer. He'd built a career with those hands. Now, he was building something better. A home, a future, a chance for Elena to shine. The final pieces fell into place. Andre arranged the furniture delivery, simple, sturdy pieces, a bright quilt for Sofia, a soccer ball for Matteo. Maria's crew added touches, a small porch, flower pots, a welcome mat. Neymar drove to the site at dawn, alone, his heart pounding. The house stood proud, its bricks glowing in the early light. It wasn't fancy, but it was everything Elena's shack wasn't. Safe, warm, hers. He walked through the rooms, the wood floor creaking, the air smelling of fresh paint. He saw it all. Sofia doing homework at the table, Matteo kicking his new ball, Carlos resting in a real bed. His chest swelled, but the work wasn't done. Elena had to see it, to feel it, to know she was seen. Back at the mansion, Neymar watched Elena, his plans solidifying. She dusted the living room, her movements slow, her face drawn. He approached, his voice casual. "Elena, I need a favor. There's a charity event soon in your neighborhood. I want you to help me organize it. You in?" Her eyes widened, surprised. "Me? I'd be honored, Mr. Neymar." She smiled, a real one, faint but warm. Neymar nodded, his heart racing. "Good. I'll let you know the details." He walked away, his back to her, a grin breaking through. The trap was set. Soon, Elena would walk into a new life, and Neymar would be there, not as a star, but as a man who'd learned what mattered most. Hold up. If you're all about real stories with real impact, leave a like below, subscribe, and watch till the end for a surprise that'll blow you away. The Miami sun was barely up, casting a soft golden glow over the city, when Neymar Jr. pulled his SUV to a stop outside Elena's neighborhood. His heart pounded, not from a game-winning goal or a roaring crowd, but from something deeper, a nervous hope that today would change everything. The plan was set. He'd told Elena about a charity event in her community, a lie woven with care to get her to the new house without suspicion. She'd agreed, her voice quiet but eager, unaware of the surprise waiting. Neymar adjusted his cap, his fingers restless, and glanced at the passenger seat where a small box held the house keys, wrapped in a ribbon like a gift. He exhaled, steadying himself. This wasn't about him. It was about Elena, her kids, her father, the family he'd seen fighting in silence. Elena stood outside her shack, waiting, her posture straight despite the weight she carried. She wore her best dress, a simple blue one, ironed to perfection, with a beaded bracelet her daughter Sophia had made. Her face held that guarded smile, but her eyes sparkled with a flicker of curiosity. Neymar pulled up, rolling down the window. "Ready, Elena?" he asked, his voice light. She nodded, clutching a worn purse. "Yes, Mr. Neymar. Thank you for this." Her words were polite, but they hit him hard. She had no idea what was coming. He opened the car door, gesturing for her to hop in. As they drove, the city's glitz faded into the familiar dirt roads of her neighborhood. Elena's brow furrowed, her fingers tightening on her purse. "The event's here?" she asked, her voice tinged with confusion. Neymar grinned, keeping his eyes on the road. "Trust me, Elena. You'll see." The car bumped along the path, past sagging shacks and kids playing with a patched soccer ball. Neymar's pulse quickened as they neared the spot where Elena's old home stood. Or used to. He parked, his hands sweaty on the wheel, and turned to her. "Come with me. I want to show you something." Elena hesitated, her eyes scanning the familiar dirt, the crooked streetlights. She followed him, her steps cautious, her dress brushing the dusty ground. Neymar led her down the path, his heart thumping louder with every step. Then they rounded the corner, and there it was, the new house. Brick walls, a tiled roof, windows catching the morning light. A small porch held potted flowers, and a wooden sign read, "Welcome home." Elena froze, her breath catching, her eyes wide as saucers. What is this?" she whispered, her voice trembling. The shack was gone, replaced by this sturdy, modest home, glowing with promise. Neymar turned to her, his throat tight. "It's yours, Elena. Your home. For you, Sophia, Matteo, and your dad." Her hand flew to her mouth, her knees buckling. She shook her head, tears spilling. No, this can't be. There's a mistake." Neymar knelt beside her, his voice soft but firm. "No mistake. You deserve this. Every brick, every room. I saw you, Elena. I saw your strength, your love. This is for you." She sobbed, her hands covering her face, her body shaking. Neymar stayed close, his own eyes stinging, his heart full. From the side of the house, voices erupted. Sophia and Matteo ran out, their faces lit with wonder, shouting, "Mama, Mama, look!" They'd been brought by Maria, the contractor, who'd kept them at a neighbor's until the moment was right. Elena gasped, pulling her kids into her arms, their laughter mixing with her tears. Carlos, her father, appeared next, leaning on a new cane, his eyes cloudy but bright with emotion. He shuffled forward, supported by Andre, Neymar's manager, who'd helped orchestrate the surprise. The old man's voice cracked. Elena, mija, is this real? She nodded, unable to speak, her arms around her family. Neymar stood back, his chest tight, watching the scene unfold like a dream. Maria stepped forward, her work boots dusty, a proud smile on her face. We built it strong, Elena. It's yours to keep. Andre clapped Neymar on the shoulder, his voice low. You did good, man. Lucas, who'd arrived just in time, grinned from the sidelines, his phone out, snapping a photo. Told you, Ney. You're soft, but it's a good look. Neymar ignored the jab, his eyes on Elena. She stood, wiping her tears, and walked toward the house, her kids tugging her hands. The door opened to a living room with a cozy couch, a small TV, a table set with a vase of flowers. The kitchen gleamed, a fridge humming, a stove ready, cabinets stocked with food. Sophia squealed at the sight of a bright quilt on her bed, while Mateo clutched a new soccer ball, his eyes huge. Carlos sank into a cushioned chair, his cough quieter, his face peaceful. Elena turned to Neymar, her voice barely a whisper. Why? I never asked for this. He stepped closer, his eyes meeting hers. Because you give everything, Elena, to your family, to my house, to everyone. You never ask. But I saw you. This is what you deserve. She broke down again, her sobs raw, grateful. She hugged him, her arms tight, like he was family. Thank you, she whispered, her voice breaking. I don't know how to thank you. Neymar shook his head, his smile soft. You already did, by being you. The moment stretched, pure and unbroken, until neighbors began to gather, drawn by the commotion. They clapped, cheered, some wiping tears. An old woman, Rosa, who lived next door, hugged Elena, her voice loud. You've always been our rock, Elena. Now you've got a real one. The crowd laughed, the sound warm, alive. Neymar stepped back, letting the community take over. Kids ran through the yard, kicking Mateo's new ball. Sophia showed off her room to a friend, her braids bouncing. Carlos sat on the porch, sipping water, his eyes on the horizon, a faint smile on his lips. Neymar watched it all, his heart swelling. This was what mattered, not stadiums, not trophies, but this. Inside, Elena found a letter on the kitchen table, handwritten by Neymar. She read it aloud, her voice shaky. Elena, you taught me what strength looks like. This house is just the start. Keep shining. She clutched the letter, tears falling, and looked at Neymar, who stood in the doorway. There's more, he said, his voice steady. I'm starting a community program, jobs, healthcare, education for families like yours. I want you to lead it. You know this world better than anyone. Elena's eyes widened, her hand trembling. Me? I'm just... Neymar cut her off. You're everything. Say yes. She nodded, speechless, her face glowing with a mix of shock and purpose. The day turned into a celebration. Neighbors brought food, tamales, rice, soda, turning the yard into a makeshift party. Maria's crew joined, their tools down, their faces proud. Andre and Lucas passed out drinks, joking with the kids. Neymar stayed in the background, his cap low, watching Elena move through the crowd. She was different now, her shoulders straighter, her smile real. She hugged Rosa, laughed with a neighbor, checked on Carlos. Sophia and Mateo ran wild, their joy infectious. Neymar felt a peace he hadn't known, deeper than any championship win. He'd given Elena a home, but she'd given him something bigger, a reason to care. As the sun set, painting the sky orange, Neymar slipped inside the house. A small cross hung on the wall, made of twigs, next to a photo of Elena's family. He touched it gently, remembering her shack, her faith. You made this? He asked when Elena appeared beside him. She nodded, her eyes soft. To remind me God's still here, even when it's hard. Neymar's throat tightened. He'd faced defenders, crowds, pressure, but her faith humbled him. "You're stronger than me," he said quietly. She shook her head, smiling. "You gave us this, Mr. Neymar. That's strength." He smiled back, his heart full. "Call me Neymar." Later, the party moved to a nearby community center where Neymar had funded a small event to launch the program Elena would lead. She stood at the front, nervous but steady, speaking to the crowd about hope, about helping each other. Neighbors cheered, their faces lit with pride. Neymar watched from the back, Lucas at his side. "You changed her life, man," Lucas said, his voice low. Neymar shook his head. "She changed mine." He saw it now. His fame, his money. They were tools, not treasures. Elena's courage, her love, her faith, that was real wealth. The night ended with music, kids dancing, and Elena's voice carrying over the crowd. Neymar slipped out, driving back to his mansion, the city lights blurring past. He thought of Elena's new home, her kids' laughter, Carlos's calm. He'd scored goals seen by millions, but this quiet act, felt bigger. Back in his silent mansion, he sat on the balcony, the ocean whispering below. He'd given Elena a house, a job, a chance. But she'd given him purpose, a reminder of why he played, why he lived. He smiled, the stars bright above, knowing this was just the start. Elena's story, her strength, would ripple, and he'd be there, not as a star, but as a man who'd learned to listen with his heart. Ready for a story that changes everything? Like this video, drop a 10 in the comments and stay till the final second for an epic reveal. The story of Neymar Jr. and Elena is a powerful reminder of the impact one person's empathy can have. It hit me hard, watching Neymar, a global soccer star surrounded by wealth, step out of his world to see Elena's, a world of struggle, yet filled with love and resilience. His journey from curiosity to action stirred something deep. It's not just about a house or a job, it's about seeing someone's silent strength and choosing to lift them up. Elena's quiet courage, working tirelessly, smiling through pain, holding her family together, showed a kind of heroism that doesn't make headlines, but shapes lives. Neymar's choice to act, not for fame, but for justice, made me reflect on how often we overlook the struggles around us, caught up in our own lives. What I take away is the power of noticing. Neymar didn't just see Elena, he felt her burden, her unspoken fight. That's a lesson for all of us. To pause, look closer, and listen with our hearts. In our fast-paced world, it's easy to miss the Elenas, the co-workers, neighbors, or strangers carrying heavy loads with a smile. This story pushes me to ask, who am I overlooking? Who needs a moment of kindness, a real gesture, not just a nod? Neymar's actions weren't grand gestures for applause. They were deliberate, quiet, and life-changing. That's the kind of impact I want to have. Small, meaningful acts that honor someone's worth. Applying this to life means starting small. It's checking in on a friend who's too quiet, helping a neighbor without being asked, or volunteering time to a local cause. It's about using what you have, time, skills, or even a listening ear to make someone's day brighter. Neymar used his resources, but the real magic was his empathy. We don't need millions to make a difference. We need open eyes and hearts. This story also reminds me to stay humble. Neymar, a star, was humbled by Elena's faith and grit. It's a call to check our egos, to learn from those who persevere despite having less. Another lesson is persistence. Neymar didn't stop at feeling sorry. He planned, built, and gave Elena a new start. That's a nudge for me to follow through, not just feel a fleeting pang of sympathy. Whether it's mentoring someone, donating to a cause, or advocating for change, it's about taking the next step. Elena's transformation into a leader, not just a survivor, shows how one act can ripple, uplifting entire communities. I want to be part of that ripple, creating opportunities where others can shine. This story also taught me gratitude. Elena's joy over a simple home, her kids' laughter over a soccer ball, put my own complaints in perspective. It's easy to grumble about small things, but seeing her strength makes me want to cherish what I have and share it. In my life, I'll strive to act with intention, to see the unseen, and to give without expecting applause. Neymar's story isn't just a feel-good moment. It's a challenge to live with purpose, to make empathy a habit, and to transform lives, one small act at a time. If this story of Neymar and Elena touched your heart, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss more stories of hope and humanity. Drop a comment below. Tell us about someone like Elena in your life or a time you made a difference. Let's spread empathy and action together.